学生们好. This is the 6th of 7 mini lectures on material covered in the introduction of Integrated Chinese Level 1, Part 1, 3rd edition. In this lecture, we're going to go over the orthography. We've learned already the sounds. We've learned the sounds to how to produce the 21 finals, both the 21 initials and the simple and compound finals. And we've learned tones. Now we're going to learn how to put them together and the rules for pinyin spelling. So let's go over that. Let's go into the slideshow. Here we go. Okay, our first rule is that the E sound, changes to Y when we have a zero initial. In other words, when we do not have a consonant beginning the syllable. Okay, so we hear ya, which is E-A, right? We'll write it Y-A, ya. We hear E-ow, right? E sound plus ow. We will write Y-A-O, yao. One more time, yao, right? We will hear E-e, right? Remember the comes up when it's in front of, when it's followed, when it's preceded by an E sound. We hear ya, yeah. We'll write it Y-E, yeah. If we hear just E, it looks a little funny to just have the Y by itself. So what we do is we keep the I just to keep it from being lonely and looking odd to have just that one Y there. So we write that Y-I. So E is going to be written Y-I. Okay? Yo, E plus O, we're going to write it Y-O-U. Yo. Yen, E plus An. Remember the it comes up a little bit, becomes an, right? We're going to write it. You'll hear yen, and you will write Y-A-N. Yen. If you hear yin, E plus N, right? Yin, you're going to write it Y-I-N. Yin. If you hear yang, E plus ang, right? Yang, you're going to write it Y-A-N-G. Yang. If you hear ying, E plus N sound, ying, you're going to write it Y-I-N-G, ying. And if you hear yong, yong, you're going to write it Y-O-N-G. And there you go, yong. When we have the O sound, O, it's going to change to W after a zero initial. That is when there is no other consonant beginning. So we will hear wu, wu, and we're going to write W-U because, again, we don't want to just write a W. That looks odd, right? So we'll write W-U, wu. We have the sound u-ah, wa. We're going to write it W-A, wa. You have the sound u-o, wo. We're going to write it W-O, wo. You have the sound u-I, y. We're going to write it W-A-I, Y. You hear the sound U-A, way. We're going to write it W-E-I, way. You hear the sound U-an, wan. You're going to write it W-A-N, wan. You'll hear the sound U-n, one. We'll write it W-E-N, one. You'll hear the sound oong, wong. You'll write it W-A-N-G, wong. You'll hear the sound oong, wong, and you'll write it W-E-N-G, wong. When we have a zero initial before a U sound, that umlaut U sound, we're going to add a Y and keep the U, but drop the umlaut, drop the two dots. So if we have U, what we will write is YU. So that Y is representing that I sound, right? So U, we write YU. yu. You have yuan, yuan, right? Yuan. We're going to write it Y-U-A-N. Yuan. If we have the combination yu, remember again that E comes up, it becomes instead of Yue, yue. We're going to write it Y-U-E. Yue. We have the sound yuan, yuan becomes yun, yun. And we will write it Y-U-N, yun. Okay? We'll drop the E as well. We'll just write Y, umlaut U, N. Yun. Okay. Now, there's another rule connected to the U sound, which we represent with an umlaut U, and a U with the 2 dots over it. And that is when we have that U sound with JQX, we just write it as U. We don't need to put the dots in because the only sounds that go with JQX, the only U type sound is the U sound. We don't have a O sound with JQX. Remember when we looked at the chart, we saw that those were blank sounds. So we can just write those as that. Then, however, N and L, these 2 initials, can have both a U sound and a O sound. Therefore, we have to keep the dots on top of N and L to signify which sound it actually is, whether it's nu or nu, for example. So here's some examples. You'll hear ju and you'll write J-U. You'll hear chue and you'll write Q-U-E. You'll hear xuan and you'll write X-U-A-N. You'll hear nu, there you'll write it N umlaut U. Or you'll hear le, and that's again that U sound, right? So you're going to write it L umlaut U E. One other kind of funky rule is that when we hear ong, we're going to write it O-N-G. You just have to remember there is no U-N-G in Pinyin spelling. Just wipe that out of your brain. You're not going to ever see anything U-N-G. So we have, for example, E-ong, yong would be written Y-O-N-G. Tong would be written T-O-N-G. Dong would be written D-O-N-G. Nong would be written N-O-N-G. Long would be written L-O-N-G. Xiong would be written X-I-O-N-G. And Qiong would be written Q-I-O-N-G. Okay. Another rule, and this goes with sort of aesthetics. When they were developing Pinyin spelling, they were trying to keep the number of vowels to a minimum. They want to have at least 1 vowel per every syllable, but they don't want to have 3 or something like that if they can help it. So what they do is with certain combinations, they will drop a vowel just to make it look less unwieldy. So, for example, yo sound, ue sound, and uen sound are written as I-U, U-I, and U-N, respectively, when they're preceded by an initial. So you hear Leo, and you're going to write L-I-U. You're going to hear Gui, and you're going to write G-U-I. And you're going to hear Shun, and you're going to write S-H-U-N. And remember that we saw this, we sort of got a little ahead of ourselves when we were talking about tones and tone marks, and I mentioned that this is the case. So that you will hear, in the case of Liu, if you're going to give it a tone mark, it would go over the U because the U actually represents O sound. And again, if you heard Gui and you were going to give it a 4th tone, it would go over the I because again, that I sound, the I represents A, not just I by itself, and your mouth opens the widest there. So that's something to keep in mind. Finally, we have this R sound. When it's in a final position, and it is very often in a final position, it is represented just by an R. So you'll hear mer, and this ER sound is often a diminutive, so little something. So here mer is a little gate, a little gate. And the first part, men, is MEN. You just add that R and you kind of nasalize it. So mer, mer. And shar, shar. We have an SHI. We just add an R sound and give it a little extra retroflex sound. So shar. And then finally, we have little child, xiao hai. We add an R, diminutive, xiao har, xiao har. Okay. Final rule is that when we have two syllables that together form a single meaning, and the first syllable ends in a vowel and the second syllable begins in a vowel, you will use an apostrophe to separate them, to show, to signify that these are two separate initials. And a good example of this is the ancient Chinese capital, the Tang and Han capital of China, which is now called Xi'an, and that is two syllables, Xi and An, Western Peace. You can see it's in the west of China from the map, and it is two separate syllables ending in the first one ending in an E sound, the second one beginning with an A sound. To show that they are two separate syllables, you will put an apostrophe in the middle, si, an, and that would distinguish it from a single syllable that would be pronounced sien. Okay, so that's the last rule to learn. You now have all the rules of Pinyin spelling. You've learned all the sounds, and the only thing left that we want to talk about in the introduction are the characters and writing the characters. So that will come in our 7th mini lecture.